Nikki Lowe, and welcome to the Wisdom for Working Mums podcast show, where I share insights and interviews that support women to combine their family, work and life in a more successful and sustainable way. Hi, I'm Nikki Lowe and I'm your host of the Wisdom for Working Mums podcast show. I met today's guest just over 2 years ago at a conference, and she quite literally changed my life in 48 hours, and I'll tell you more about that story in a bit. But it's no secret that the way we've battled to keep up with the men in what is still essentially a man's world has taken its toll on us women. We've been trying so hard to make it work, but often it's left us stressed, overwhelmed and nearing burnout. And you've probably heard me say many times now that I genuinely believe that women are going to help solve the problems of today's world. But unfortunately, many of us are burning out trying to do that because too many of us are trying to make our way in this world from a male paradigm. And I know I was, and it wasn't until I became a mother, being in the ultimate feminine space, that I was forced to come to terms with my own paradigm. And today's guest is Susie Heath, who is an expert in helping women to fully embrace their feminine strengths. She helps women to learn to step in and reclaim their feminine energy, helping them to feel happier, more fulfilled, more energized, and more connected with their feminine strength and potency. Sounds brilliant, doesn't it? So Susie is the author of 2 powerful books. Her first one was The Essence of Womanhood, Reawakening the Authentic Feminine, and also Dance Your Way to the Top, which is feminine leadership without burning out. And I can't wait to share all of Susie's wonderful and juicy wisdom with you. In this episode, Susie and I explore the threat that many women are facing in the modern world, the difference between male and female energy, and how many of us women are occupying too much of that male energy and the impact that's having on us and our intimate relationships. We talk about the feminine addiction traps, which I think you're going to love. And if you've not come across before, I imagine will resonate for many of you. And she also shares some simple but powerful exercises to reconnect with our feminine energy so that we can be more in flow and tap into that natural power. But I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's dive into this conversation with Susie and find out how she changed my life. And I hope she does yours too. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you, Susie, to today's podcast. And I think I met you about 2.5 years ago, and I saw you on stage at a conference and actually fell in love with you. And as a heterosexual woman, that was a really unusual experience for me, that you've got this extraordinary kind of feminine power and magnetism. And I remember at the time thinking, I need to learn more about this woman and understand what she's got, because I want to bottle it and I want to drink it. And obviously after that experience, as you know, because I shared it with you via email afterwards, I didn't know the actual impact that you would have on my life. And I credit you as being the person that got me pregnant after several years of fertility issues. And I just wanted to let the audience know my husband was involved in that process. But
when I was in the room.
Yes, you weren't in my bedroom or anything like that. But within that 48-hour period of meeting you, I know with all certainty you helped get me pregnant. And so I know firsthand how powerful what you do and who you are. And I wanted to share that with my Wisdom for Working Mums audience. So I am so excited about having you on today. So thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. That's just such a beautiful introduction. And it's really my joy to be here to share as much as I can in the limited time that we have.
Thank you. So for those that don't know you, Susie, could you tell us a little about who you are and what you do?
It's always really difficult to say because it sounds a bit crazy. And my work is so experiential. If I can tell you how I got here a little bit, that might help make things a little clearer. So brilliant. I was a single mum many years ago. My daughter had gone off to university and I was bringing up my 2 boys on my own. and very proud of myself because I was on the roof, I was under cars, I was digging the garden, I was chopping logs for the fire, painting the house, running a business, and really proud of myself that I was handling in some sort of order my two teenage boys and carting them off to their DJ, because they were both DJing as young men do in their 14 and 15-year-old eagerness, and handling all these incredibly masculine things. I was really proud of myself. I thought, yeah, I've really got it sorted. But inside, I was dying. So what happened was I'd grown up with the book Superwoman, which encouraged women to be not only as good as men, but even better. So I was doing all that stuff and exercising and getting my body fit and doing all the things that one was told you have to do in personal development to work towards having your own jet and all that other nonsense and earn money. And it literally was killing me. And it wasn't until I burned out completely that I realized what was happening. And it was because I had come away from the feminine part of me, because that's what I'd been trained to do. It had become very important. So many people were teaching how to become very strong and independent of men. Yes. In this very powerful feminist behavior, and it literally was breaking my body. And it took a lot of soul searching to discover a new methodology of getting healthily back on track with that at a time when the idea of being feminine really wasn't popular. So my first book, The Essence of Womanhood, Reawakening the Authentic Feminine, I was terrified bringing that out into the world because I really felt I'd get squashed tomatoes and bad eggs thrown at me. I'm sure you can understand that, because women are out in business, they're taking leadership roles, they're doing extraordinary things, becoming pilots and going into the army and the police force and doing these incredibly powerful things. And there was me not saying go back and be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen and be subservient, but find a way to tap into this essence of what it is to be feminine.
Oh, and I'm sure people listening will already be kind of going, this sounds fascinating, because I know a lot of the women I work with embody more of a masculine energy, and they've either learned it or been conditioned with it because that's all that they know to be successful. So obviously we've talked about the masculine and feminine here. Would you mind explaining what you mean by that?
Yeah, so we've all got masculine and feminine energy in us. If you know the Tai Chi symbol, it's this beautiful curve. It looks a little bit like two tadpoles intertwined. So one side of that, and it has a curve in between, not a straight line, where one side is masculine but contains the germ of the feminine. The other side is feminine and contains the germ of the masculine. So it's not either or, and it doesn't matter what your gender is. You know, it's men have feminine in them, women have masculine in them. That's the way we're designed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived so long. And by masculine, I mean that masculine energy, that the masculine energy is more outward. It's more powerful physically, because the male body is designed to be more powerful physically than the female body, except when we're giving birth to children, in which case, believe you me, we have power that is absolutely extraordinary. The feminine energy is more receptive. You know, we have a vagina that receives from the masculine energy. Our bodies are more receptive. We have a womb space that is dark and mysterious, in which we have the ability to create babies. And I know not everybody who's listening will be a biological mother, but we still have this same, I'll call it essence about us, this same energy. We communicate in a different way. We have our brains that are very different. We have much more ability to hold 2 or 3 conversations in our heads at the same time. We can be talking with our friends and join in 3 conversations at the same time, whereas a male energy is much more focused. So, and it's interesting to note that a lot of the medicine and a lot of the way that we are taught health-wise has all been done on the male body, because with our female hormonal cycles, we're not stable enough as far as medicine is concerned to do lots of tests on. So this is why so many of the medicines that are bandied about and given about don't work for us as women, because they haven't been tested on the female body, which again I find fascinating.
Yes.
So the structure of our bodies, although they are pretty similar in that we all have hearts and livers and lungs, and from the rest of our energy and our perspective and our organs, we're very internal, the male organs very much external. We're very differently built. And whether you're in a heterosexual relationship or a gay or lesbian relationship, there is still this masculine energy and feminine energy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what we're talking about today in terms of the feminine energy isn't just about women or people that identify as women. It is the balance of that energy and how much we embody it and connect to it. And I think you talk so powerfully about actually the impact of us not being in touch with our feminine energy. And I know you're going to share with us almost this new paradigm. So would you mind explaining a bit more about that, please?
Sure. What's happening, I've just so you know, I'll tell you about my big work in a minute, which is the work you've experienced. So I coach women individually, and I coach couples, and I coach men individually. What happens so often in relationship is that women have become so masculinized by the work they do out in the world, by trying to prove that they are as good as, if not better than men, in order to, and for very practical reasons, in order to get noticed, in order to get pay rise, in order to be given an understanding that they've participated and made a difference. So we have been fighting to be seen for a very long time. And it makes sense that we fought so hard. But the results of that have caused such chaos in relationship, not just in communication with the masculine within relationship, but also in our sexuality, what I like to call our sexualness. If you can imagine, if a man is in his masculine energy, being expected to be strong and powerful and outgoing and doing what he's supposed to do as a man, and the woman is also in a very similar energy because she may be a leader at work, a manager, doing very strong and powerful work, and she comes home, and then the two of them become like stags fighting in the wood. There's no dynamic energy between them. They're both on that same level. If you go back again to this idea of the yin and yang, the powerful Tai Chi symbol with the masculine and the feminine, you need both of those in a powerful dynamic together, for them to dance together, for them to create an energy between. If both are very in the very masculine energy or both in the very feminine energy, there's no polarity.
Yes, yeah.
And so often couples become like flatmates, housemates, because they're both vying with each other to be top dog. I remember when I was married, and my husband and I got divorced some 20 years ago, but we used to fight as to who was tired, the most tired in the evening, trying to justify our positions. Because that was our language, as to who was the most exhausted, who had achieved the most, instead of creating this balance. And I know this becomes quite a shock to women at first when they go, but we fought so hard in this feminist world for our place. I'm not saying you can't still work and be incredibly powerful, but my work is about coming from a softer power. A more gentle but powerful, a more understanding, a more compassionate, a more loving place to the people we work with, the people we live with, and for ourselves.
Yeah. And I remember when I first heard this message, and I'm like, well, I'm quite a girly girl, I wear pretty dresses and I like to wear makeup, and no, I'm really feminine. But then that realization of actually, but how am I showing up, and what energy am I using to show up? Yeah. And being somebody that's, achievement focused, often over functioning, wanting to control everything in my life, wanting to achieve, that actually I was drawing on not an innate energy. I was drawing on my masculine energy. And I ended up getting adrenal fatigue. I ended up burning out. And I'm like, it all makes sense now.
It all makes sense. So even, the makeup, the nail varnish, the having your hair done, and the immaculate makeup is actually masculine energy. It's pushing ourselves out into the world to be seen rather than becoming the invitation.
Yeah.
So can you hear it is so subtle, Nikki. It's I find it really difficult to express it in language, because somehow our language can be misinterpreted when we speak the words. When I'm teaching this stuff, it's very different, because somehow I do create this invitation, this energy that allows the women and the men that I'm teaching to relax and to not go to battle with me. And so it seeps under the radar to give them a comfort of things that they instinctively know that they've always known. It's in our DNA, it's in our blood to be in this soft power, this gentle, this peace creating, this creating a compassionate space. And as I'm talking now, I'm sort of thinking about this maternal energy as well as lover energy. So the maternal energy is not where we just take something and defrost it and chuck it in the microwave and slop it on a plate, but we pour our love into the way we cook food. We pour our love in the way we, I hate to say this, clean our houses. When we do this from a more loving perspective, it takes away the anxiety, the fractiousness, the resentment, the fatigue even of the chores that we have. If we take away the word chores and go, aren't I lucky I get to create loving food for my family? Aren't I lucky I have a home I get to clean and pour my love into it? It's so much more relaxing and enjoyable and fulfilling than going, oh God, what am I going to feed the family on tonight? What's the quickest, easiest way? And oh, blast, I've got to do the cleaning again. I hate it.
Yeah. And having experienced your energy, as you say, it's often difficult to put into words, because it was such a the experience of being in your energy was incredibly powerful. So there's almost, because I imagine there might be some people listening to this that may never have heard this kind of message before, that it's almost like, what, are you asking me to surrender and become kind of a weak kind of female? There might be those type of thoughts coming to mind. And what I've experienced being in your company and seeing the impact you have on women is, it is incredibly powerful, but it's an innate magnetic power And I know one of my previous guests on the podcast, a lady called Kate Northrop, talks about the egg wisdom and about how actually, if we think about the egg and the sperm, the egg just sits there, doesn't actually use a lot of effort, but she pulls the sperm into her, and it's that magnetic energy.
It's purely magnetic. So I'd like to really talk about the body, because to me, this is our place of wisdom. So often women, because they're going to the gym at night, they're doing these cycling on the bikes, they're cycling on the bikes, going nowhere, but going nowhere fast. They're lifting weights, by the way, is really good for us. Lifting weights is really good for us because it allows our muscles to be enhanced quickly. So lifting weights is very good, but aerobic exercise is not good for us as women. It's exhausting and it affects our adrenals. So you're talking about adrenal fatigue. But if you think about our body as just being the source of wisdom, and within it, we have, when we allow ourselves to tap into it, what I liken to our satellite navigation system. It's our life force. It's that energy that we can tap into and get all of the answers to anything that we want. But so often we ignore the body and just go to the thinking part of our brain, the cortex. But the cortex doesn't have all the answers. The cortex only knows what it knows. It doesn't have wisdom. It has knowledge gleaned from books, from society, from conditioning, from programming, from everything that goes along around inside us. But it is our body that contains the wisdom. Is this making sense so far?
It does. And I think, again, for me, this was a bit of a paradigm shift because obviously, as a woman, I was aware of my body and I was aware that I'd got breasts. But a lot of the time it was, so what do I weigh? Do I fit into my clothes? My body was almost a place to judge and to fit in, kind of to a cultural, box. And just hearing you talk about the body so intimately, and I know that we'll get into this, and talking about your sensuality and sexuality, it evoked something in me that I'd lost contact with, if I'd ever been in contact with it. And that I think was the magic that led to me becoming pregnant. And I still don't understand it, but I wondered if you could speak to a bit more about the body and your paradigm on this.
To me, the work I do is about expressing who we are in the world, but expressing who we are as individuals, because I believe we've all come here, we're all on this planet to be the best that we can be, not the best that somebody else wants us to be.
Yes.
Because that becomes thinking, that becomes judging, that becomes comparison, and that's all the stuff that really brings us down. My belief and my way of working is to allow us to express ourselves fully. And that is done through, the work I do is through movement, accompanied by very specific pieces of music. The music is designed to stimulate the emotional capacity that we have. So I'm not working with miserable words of songs. Most of the music I use is instrumental or sung in foreign languages so that most people can't directly connect with the languaging, so they don't go and start analysing, because the brain is such a wonderful analysing tool. So it bypasses the conscious mind, and the music seeps into the unconscious mind. So all the music and the exercises I use, each exercise is only the length of a piece of music, so sort of 3.5 minutes, and I guide the exercises. So it's not about freestyle, here's a piece of music, go and do what you want to it. But it's exercising. So I use breath, I use movement, I use expression, I use the way we physically move. So one of the things that I usually start with is the way we walk. So many women walk as if they've never been to the toilet, never had sex, ashamed of their bodies, or alternatively, walking in, here I am, like me or don't like me, I'm going to take over the world. You're all going to people watch after this. But when you look at the way we walk, some people don't walk with their feet on the ground. Some people bounce. Some people walk with their chests puffed out. Some people walk with their chests so far in that their shoulders are rounded. Some people walk with their heads down or with their heads up because they're thinking a lot. With their heads down causes depression. So we know that the way we stand and the way we move really affects our emotions. So a lot of the work I do is about bringing out the best of who we are through our movement. And what happens by doing that is that we're creating new neural pathways. You know, our brains have got this plasticity in them. We're able to alter the way our brain and our body behave when we give it new adventures, new constructs, new ways of being. So what I'm doing is helping people to move in a way that they may not have moved before. So it's not the rigors of a gymnastic display. It's using very curvy body, if you like, because our bodies are curved. Our bodies are not straight up and down. So I teach people how to walk, to really connect with the earth, and as women to sway our hips. Because we're designed to sway our hips. What happens when we move our hips, and some of the work I did with you was very gently doing figures of 8 with our hips, very gently moving our hips backwards and forwards, as if we were making love with the earth. And what this does is when we sway our bodies, what actually happens inside is we're massaging our organs. Your body starts to secrete juices, sexual juices, but liquids inside that help all the organs massage themselves and slip over each other gently when we move with a swaying motion, which we as women are designed to move. So one of the exercises I'd like you all to practice when you next go for a walk is gently allow your body to sway side to side in a beautiful curvy way. And a lot of women go, yes, but isn't that encouraging unwanted attention? Not if you're really at home inside your body, which is why I suggest you practice this at home. Practice this at home. It releases your hips. It releases your spine. It releases your sexual organs. It releases the tension that can quite often happen, pelvic pain, which women quite often get if they're not moving properly, if they're not having sex, if they're not orgasming. It can build up inside. Whereas when you start to move this way with fluidity and the curviness with which our bodies are designed, so much gets released. And movement then becomes more joyful rather than stiff and awkward. And this helps all the hormones in our amazing, extraordinary bodies to do what they're supposed to do. It gives us more joy, more pleasure. When these lovely hormones of connection with our own bodies start to work, the estrogen, when we start to love our bodies a little bit more, we start to even see the world in a different way. The words that come out of our mouth are different. The way we learn to communicate is different, all because of the way we move.
What's coming to my mind, Susie, is until I saw you and witnessed you in your feminine energy, I'm not sure I'd ever seen that role model before. And I'm sitting here thinking, and who have I come across in my life, whether it be somebody in the public eye or somebody outside of the public eye, just that I know that really embodies that feminine energy. And until I met you, I don't think I had. So if somebody's listening going, I kind of get this, but I can't imagine what it would look or feel like, is there anybody that you see in the public eye that you think actually they're really connected to their feminine energy, and that would be almost they're doing it in their way, but that somebody could grasp this concept?
I'm sure there must. It's just nobody comes to mind at the moment. I've not been asked that one before. Do you know Judi Dench?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, bless her, she's 82 or something crazy. But when she is talking, there's this glow about her. There's this fulfilled, loving glow about her. So I see a lot of flashes of that in her. And it doesn't mean that you have to wait until you're old.
Yes.
So don't think, oh, I'll get it one day. This is about... So I run a program called Learning to Love Yourself, which is what I think you've called this talk, Learning to Love Yourself Truly, Madly, Deeply, Divinely. I think women... So I'm going on a roundabout way of trying to answer this. Women say, I don't love myself. And they're expecting, I think, bells and whistles and angels plucking harps to suddenly appear to tell them that they do love themselves. Love is a verb. Loving yourself is something you do every day. It's not an emotion where you suddenly go, I'm there and now love myself. Loving yourself is something you do when you take a shower in the morning. So I'm going to give you another exercise, because I think if I can give you some exercises to do, you'll start to step into the world that I inhabit and start to understand from an actual point of view rather than an intellectual point of view.
Love that. And I think my audience will as well. So yeah, I'd love another exercise. So
when you're having a shower in the morning, rather than just going whoosh, 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 thinking about the emails and got to feed the dog and you've got to sew name tapes on Johnny's gym kit and you've got to get to that meeting and that paper you've got to write and that client you need to see and whether the car's been serviced and all the things that we do, just take time to look at the water. This need only take a minute. Look at the water. And when you look at the water, you can see it, almost the gap between the drops. And just watch the drops for about 15 seconds. And then shut your eyes and listen just to the sounds. There may be, your tummy may be rumbling. You'll hear the water falling on the shower tray or the bath. You'll hear the splish and the splash. You may hear the kids shouting, or you may hear a tractor outside the window or a plane or a car, or just listen without labeling anything. So you don't label anything. And then feel, so do that for about 15 seconds, then feel the water on your skin, whether it's hot or cold, whether it's touching the hair on the back of your neck. Feel whether it feels like pins and needles, whether it's comforting. So feel the physicality of it. Feel the wetness of it. Feel the viscosity of the lotion or the body wash or whatever you're using. And then do that for about 15 seconds and then feel the feelings, the emotional feelings, whether it's feeling comforting or delicious or what are you feeling as you're receiving this water on your skin? Feel the sensuality of it, like it's massaging your body. Then smell the smells. There may be a perfume in the body gel you're using. Really smell that. Take that deeply into you. It might be citrusy, it might be a forest smell, it might be a floral smell, it might be minty. Just really smell the smells and see where those smells take you. And then taste the smells, because smells have taste. It affects your taste buds. And after about 15 seconds of that, go back to looking at the water. So do that 2 or 3 times. It'll take, 3 or 4 minutes to do that. And when you step out of the shower, feel the towel against your skin. Really connect with either the abrasiveness or the roughness, or the softness or the coziness of your towel. And enjoy drying your body. Acknowledge your body as you dry it. Send love to it. And if you put body lotion on, rather than just slapping the body lotion on, send it with love into your hands, into your arms, just saying, body, I'm sending this to you with love. And this is love in action. This is actively putting love into your body. And another beautiful exercise, which I do to Joe Cocker's music. There's a lovely Joe Cocker song, which he does to a live audience. And it's really good to do this to a live audience because they applaud at the end and that makes you feel great. So again, it's about 3.5 minutes long. And start this exercise. This is something you can do with body lotion or without body lotion, with a massage oil, and it's 3.5 minutes. So you can find 3.5 minutes to do this in. So put your hands on your head, on your hair, and thank your brain. Thank it. Thank your head for all the extraordinary things it does. Put your hands over your eyes and thank your eyes for being able to see. Thank your ears. Put your hands over your ears and thank them for being able to hear. Thank your nose for being able to bring in all the scents from outside, from inside, the lovely scents and the not so lovely scents, because we need the unlovely scents to keep us safe, to teach us to keep away from them or to teach us to clear them up. Put your hands over your mouth and thank it for being able to taste, over your neck being able to support this heavy weight, your shoulders for being strong, your arms to be able to hold your babies, to hug somebody, your hands for being able to make amazing things, for being able to bake cakes, to write what's coming in through your brain, to massage, to caress, to love with. Our hands are not designed to hold guns and to kill. They're designed to love. Your breasts are designed to hold babies and hold people against. If you're lucky enough to have been able to breastfeed, then to provide milk and nurture. And some of our beautiful women will have had mastectomies, but the essence, the energy of the breast is still there. It's still there, even if the physicality is not there. So you can still hold your hands over your chest and thank that breast energy. Your heart for ticking when you don't have to ask it to beat, your lungs for breathing, to keep your whole system going, your digestive system. I even thank my anus for the work it does, because without that, what are we full of? Our bottoms to give us that cushioning to sit down, our hips, our legs, our knees for being able to carry us, our feet for holding so many sensitive parts of our body, because in our feet, as you know, if you've ever had reflexology, all the points of the body are connected there. Our bodies are miraculous. And when you can start to see it and touch it with that miracle, and put your hand over your vulva, thank it for not only for being able to produce a child, which is miraculous in itself, but for the pleasure that it can bring, because it's delicious and juicy. So very frequently, all we do is stand in front of a mirror and criticize. I hate my nose, I hate my bum, I hate my thighs, I hate my tits, I hate my this, I hate my that. And we compare and contrast and judge. If you stood in front of your best friend and said some of the things that come out of our mouths, it wouldn't be our best friend for long. Yeah. And yet that's what we do. So loving yourself is an activity. It's loving yourself enough to feed yourself foods that are delicious rather than foods that are lacking in any substance. So when we stuff ourselves with sugars and too many carbs, that's just because we're not loving ourselves enough.
And I know in your book you talk about these feminine addiction traps. And I love what you talk about in terms of being over or under. And I suppose, we might overindulge in the sugar, but also underfeed our body in terms of, I don't want to put on weight, so I'm going to deprive myself. And and when I read that, gosh, this is so powerful, because I've never heard anybody explain it in that way and talk about addiction in terms of the feminine addiction trap. Would you mind talking a bit more about that?
It's interesting because I'm going to bring this out as a little program on its own, because it's incredibly powerful. So I came up with this idea when I was talking. I was doing a VIP day with a lady where she was coaching me through it, and she said, "What is it that stops women being authentically themselves?" And I said, it's like, this sounds a bit of a strong word, but it sounds like we're addicted to stuff. And that's where the feminine addiction trap was birthed. So I call these, so I've got 5 addictions, the overs. So this first one I call the overs. So it's overwhelm, where we're trying to prove something to other people that we're more than enough. So we take on too much. We don't know when to stop. We don't know when to say, I'm ready to rest now. We wait until we get exhausted and burned out. We overspend trying to fill a gap. We over-exercise, thinking that that's what we have to do in order to be perfect. We're over-masculine, fighting for our place in the world, thinking that being more blokey, more like a bloke in a frock, is better than being our authentic female self. We're over busy, we're over controlling. Some women are over organized. We over collect, we over clutter, as if we fill our bodies and our lives with enough stuff so that there's no space for anything else. And I'm sure you recognize some of those. Certainly my overindulgent behavior was filling everywhere with stuff. Not necessarily spending money, but stuff, and we know that when we clear the clutter, we have more emotional space.
Yeah. And I know that there will be people listening to this that will relate to one or more of those overs, that, they recognize the overwhelm, or the over busy, or the over controlling, or over organizing. Absolutely.
So we stop being ourselves.
Almost the polarity of that is the unders that you talk about.
So the unders is also an addiction, where we undervalue ourselves. We underachieve because we're stepping back, not wanting to be seen, or not wanting to be judged for the things that we're really good at. There are things I'm really, really good at, and we make the assumption that everybody else is too. So we don't put ourselves out there in the world going, this is my gift to the world.
Yes.
We assume that everybody else can do it too because it's easy for us. So have a look at the things where you are underachieving, because you've probably not found the thing that you can do so easily. You assume everybody else is good at it. I had a horticulture business for 14 years because I could grow anything when I was in my fertile years. I could grow anything. I would almost look at a seed and it would sprout for me. And I assumed that everybody was like that. But I created my business teaching people how to grow beautiful plants and how to prune and how to nurture and nourish. So what I'm doing really now is doing the same with people. I've gone from growing plants to growing people because it's the same thing for me. So another under is the never enough syndrome, where I still feel I haven't got enough. I'm still either underachieving, so we buy new courses, or I don't own enough, so that's again part of the filling clutter. People pleasing, where we become a little bit too humble, or we're trying to. There's a girl who works in my chemist, and she's such a people pleaser, and it's really uncomfortable. I want to tell her not to do it so much because it's uncomfortable receiving it too. Because what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Oh, do let me help. Do let me help. What advice would you need? And it's exhausting. Yeah. She's trying so hard, and I can see there's a pain in her that's not being filled. So another addiction is body hatred, which I've talked about a little bit about. When we hate our body, we turn inwards, and anger turns into really a self-aggressiveness, aggressive behavior to ourselves. Body hatred is enormous and becomes the foundation for so many illnesses. So those 2 exercises I've given you of thanking your body, and putting, really acknowledging how amazing all these organs are in our body, really make a difference to undoing that hatred. The exercise I gave you of watching and listening and hearing brings you into the present moment.
Yes.
So the purpose behind that is to bring you into the present moment, so you don't go into the analysing and the comparing and thinking that if you're in bed with your partner that they'll notice your cellulite. They won't. But that's what we do. Come into the present moment. So that exercise, if you train yourself enough with that coming into the present moment, you can bring it into everything. So
and I noticed, I just wanted to say, Susie, as you were doing that exercise, my mind was listening to it, but my body just went, it kind of exhaled and went, oh, this is amazing. And I just noticed my body reaction to it. And I think, as you said, this body hatred is so huge because it's almost the water that we swim in as women that we don't even notice, because it is so part of our culture and the messaging that I think it's very unusual to meet a woman that doesn't look in the mirror and criticize her body in some way, shape or form. And we might not even be aware that we're doing it.
And we're supposed to have some fat.
Yeah.
We're supposed to have some fat. We're supposed to be curvy. We're not supposed to have a 6-pack. That's masculine energy. If you look at the way a woman at her most fertile, she's curvaceous. She has to have some body fat in order to be able to feed a baby.
Yeah.
And if you look at pictures of women, that artists have painted over the last few hundred years, there was a time when fat meant delicious, voluptuous, wealthy. Men sought out women with fat on their bodies. So, part of this body hatred is we're teaching, particularly men, to hate us because we hate ourselves. We teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. So if your children hear you going, I have to be on a diet all the time, or look at this awful fat, or I can't fit into this because I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, I'm too this, I'm too that, that's the programming they will take on. So it's not just ourselves we affect, it's the people around us we affect when we hate our bodies. When we love our bodies, we literally do give others permission to do the same. How often have you hugged a friend and gone, oh gosh, this is so delicious?
Yeah.
You don't go, oh, she's obviously a 36 double D, or she's 2 stone overweight. You just go, oh, that feels so wonderful to be hugged by this beautiful being. So body hatred is such a dreadful thing to do to ourselves. My fourth addiction is addicted to the impossible, to perfectionism, to conformity, to status, to getting to the top of the ladder, having the perfect business, being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect lover in the bedroom, having the perfect house. Perfection is such a trap, and it's cruel. And the other one is what I call the love bug, where some women are determined to fly solo. I don't need a man. I can do it all myself. Or addicted to romance, where they get so addicted to romance that they expect their partners to be able to read their needs without being explicit. We need to tell our partners what we need. To say that my friend Jilly was bought some flowers by her husband yesterday, wasn't that a lovely thing to do, is not going to make your partner rush out and buy you flowers. It does, because that's not the way the male brain, the masculine brain, connects. What you need to do is say, darling, I'd love it if you buy me flowers every week. They can be daffodils. They don't have to be an expensive thing. Just some daffodils that I know come from your heart will make me feel so loved and treasured. And it will make such a difference to me. Would you be able to do that for me, please? It will make me feel romanced and loved. We need to explain, So the other part of the love bug is women who, what I call Sex in the City, who are giving it away for free and not acknowledging the power of their sexuality, because it's very powerful. I'm studying this very, very deeply and profoundly at the moment. I'm going to come out with some things that are really shocking, but not in this podcast. But before long, I will be. And the Lone Ranger, the women who think that it's okay to isolate themselves, where in fact it's so damaging for us. We're not designed as women. We're not designed to be on our own. I know I keep jumping around because there are so many things that occur to me as we're talking. I was in Morocco last summer, and we were driving around. We were a group of 9 women having an extraordinary adventure. We'd been in the desert. We'd been in a hot air balloon. We camped in the desert overnight. We'd camel trekked, done all sorts of amazing things.
Oh, wow.
Just extraordinary. And we were driving through the mountains, and a number of times I saw tribes of women washing their clothes in the river, and they were wearing beautiful coloured clothing, and you could hear them. They were chatting away and giggling and singing. And, I was envious, because what we do is chuck stuff in the washing machine with feeling quite resentful quite often.
Yes, yeah.
We've lost that ability to be together as women. We do it on social media, but we're not in the same room and being together. So that's something that I'm going to be starting to do, is bringing women together in small groups, coming together for a couple of days, couple of nights, sit by the fire, do some lovely, lovely things, but also dream, to sit and dream together over a log.
And that sounds amazing. And I know that when I saw you at that conference, one of the activities you did on the evening was you got us together and in a room and used dance. And I remember feeling really self-conscious and going, oh God, what are we doing here? I wish I'd just stayed in my room, and all this resistance come up. And then we got into this activity, and I distinctly remember you using almost like a tribal-based music, and getting us to move around the room, and how we started to all kind of move as this connected system of women. And it was mind-blowing, but how that exists within us. But I think we're so conditioned in the way that we operate these days to be more in isolation, to work independently.
And that was very tribal. I'll explain it a tiny bit. I was asking everybody in the room to go back and imagine that there were a tribe living out of doors, where, some of us might have been fishing, others might have been whittling wood, others holding babies, others making their fire, others picking and harvesting. We were putting pretend flowers behind each other's ears. We were doing activities together as a tribe. And what emerged on that evening was the most astounding thing I have ever seen in my life. That I've done. I'm not going to give it away too much, but it transpired out of the work that it came together. And I'm talking about 380 women in a room.
Yeah.
There were 380 women in that room that night, and it came into an imaginary campfire. And I stood with tears streaming down my face watching that and being part of it. It was out of this world and so transformational. So the work I do is about getting under the conscious mind into the unconscious mind so we can express what's in our DNA. This is inside us, Nikki.
Yeah. And you prove that to me. And
this desire to love and be loved, and to touch and to hold hands with another woman, to look in her eyes, to be seen, to see, to cherish, to hold, to hug from the heart rather than air kissing.
Yes.
To be deeply embodied in the feminine.
Be people listening to this, Susie, that go, at some level in me, I get this, but it's so alien to what I know or what I've ever done.
Sure.
So you've given us a couple of exercises around, being in the shower and being really present and really connected to our body, and then lovingly kind of applying, body lotion or drying ourselves off. If there was just one thing that you would want somebody listening to this conversation to take away and start to do that builds on those exercises and takes them on this journey of kind of connecting more to their feminine energy and innate power, what would that be?
I think to take yourself out into nature, to take your shoes off, connect with the heartbeat in Mother Earth, to watch the trees as they go into bud, see their prolific way of expressing themselves, listen to the birds, watch the insects, smell the smells, be fully present in nature. It is the inspiration for everything. Notice the sexuality of all that. We haven't even talked about sex today. We'll have to, if you'll have me back, we'll talk about that again.
I would love that, because it's often a taboo subject. And I remember actually something that really struck me was your grounded way of talking about sexuality that I'd never heard before, because often it's done as you say, like a cosmopolitan type of, how to have an orgasm every time you have sex. And it's more, it not cheapens it, but it's not connected to an innate power.
Yeah.
And I also, in that, the work that you did, I remember you saying about when you go out into nature, you said, wear a skirt.
Yes.
Take your knickers off.
Yes,
and I was like, oh, and I started to get all like primish and like, oh gosh, she's talked about getting your knickers off. But would you just mind quickly speaking to that? And then that might lead into us doing
Sure.
part 2 of this in another podcast.
This is going to sound a bit weird. And probably, quite a lot of what I've said may sound a bit weird, but it's not weird at all. The earth is emitting an energy all the time, and we call the earth Mother Earth because it has this feminine energy, this abundance, this fecundity, this richness, this ability to grow. So the earth, when we've got our knickers off, the energy from the earth literally comes up into our vagina. When we block everything off with jeans and tights and knickers, we block off the earth's energy. When you walk around freely, and it feels really weird, but the Edwardian ladies used to do it, and they got up to all sorts of mischief, and the Victorians. So, and they didn't do it for that purpose. It's just that bloomers and things probably hadn't been invented the way they are used now. But this energy is the earth connecting. To sit on the ground to sit on the ground and allow that earth energy to come up through your body is amazing. It's extraordinary. So that's another really great thing to do.
And I imagine people listening to this will be maybe like I was, this just sounds weird, but knowing innately there's something, we can't deny that nature is powerful, and we can't deny that Mother Nature's powerful. And I would say, if anybody's listening to this, just to almost connect with the body when you're listening, and not too much with the mind that might go, I just don't understand this. This is all new and just sounds a bit weird. And I can honestly say, having had, as I said right at the beginning, the impact this has had on my life, I absolutely wouldn't have my daughter. I truly believe that, without having met you, Susie. So I will forever be grateful, but also I've got absolute proof that what you teach and the work that you do is incredibly powerful, even if I don't fully understand it. And I would absolutely love to have you on for part 2, because I think there's a deeper conversation to be had about the sensuality and sexuality that we just don't talk about.
And particularly after women have had babies as well, to get back into the connection with the sexuality and our bodily needs and the needs of our partners, and to be able to converse about that and to talk about it and to really enjoy it again, because what a beautiful treasure we've been given, sexuality, and to have sex and make love. Extraordinary. And as you say, some of it's been cheapened, some of it's we don't know how to handle it these days, despite the fact that it's everywhere you look. So there's a language of love, a language of sex that I'd be delighted to talk with you about.
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait for that, Susie. Well, I'm sure people are going to be going, how can I find out more about Susie and what she does? So could you share a bit more about where people can find you? And I'll put all these into the show notes so people can click the links through.
Sure. At the moment, I've just got a little squeeze page, which is at www.susieheath.com. And you can download a little pocketbook version of The Essence of Womanhood. So it's called Little Gems. It's got all the little gems taken out of The Essence of Womanhood. So to me, that's really, really worth doing. And you can connect with me on Facebook. As you've been listening to this, if you want to talk to me, connect with me on Facebook. You'll find me as Susie Heath. And I would be delighted to let you know when I'm running workshops and when I'm running lovely little retreats. And I'll be running special ones for mums. I'll be running ones I'm going to do a course for women who want to become pregnant, partly inspired by you. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you.
I am actually a fertility specialist with hypnotherapy as well, so I can bring all this into it. So I'm putting together a lot of amazing things this year. So be in touch with me, and I'm sure you can put the word out for me as well, Nikki, to your lovely women.
Absolutely. And just to let people know, you're Susie, Susie, aren't you? Susie Heath. And as I say, I'll put all the links in. Well, thank you, Susie, for sharing your wisdom so beautifully.
It's gone so fast. I'm sorry we didn't cram it into 40 minutes, but it's been such a joy and a delight to talk with you, Nikki. Thank you so much.
It's profound wisdom. It takes as long as it does, and I can't wait to have you back again. So thank you, Susie. If you've enjoyed this episode of Wisdom for Working Mums, please share it on social media and with your friends and family. I'd love to connect with you too. So if you head over to wisdomforworkingmums.co.uk, you'll find a link on how to do this. And if you love the show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review and subscribe. You'll be helping another working mum find this resource too. Thanks so much for listening.